make sure to give my dad a 5-star review.
Make sure to like and subscribe to his YouTube. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Me living always on the white side of town, they living always on the black side of town. And doesn't that tell you already there's systemic something going on, that there are black sides of town and white sides of town? And you can go to any city in this country in 2025, and you can probably do it in 2050, and that's what you're going to find. So why is that? The beauty of us just telling our stories is you get to see how our lives are so fundamentally different because of something we have no control over. We're just born. We're just trying to grow up like everybody, but we have very different realities.
Well, hey there, Faithful Politics viewers. If you're joining us on YouTube, and listeners, if you're on our podcast stream, guys, thanks so much for joining us for another great episode of Faithful Politics Podcast. I am Josh Burtram, Pastor Josh Burtram. I'm your faithful host here. And we have, as always, our political host, Will. It's good to see you, Will.
Yeah, it's good to be seen. Thanks, Josh.
Absolutely. And today we are super excited about having the authors of a new book, Kingdom Racial Change, through Eerdmans Publishing, Michael A. Evans, Pastor Michael Evans, Dr. David L. McFadden, and Dr. Michael O. Emerson. Their book is a powerful blend of personal stories and sociological insight, written to equip Christians to confront racism with courage and conviction. This is drawing from their diverse experiences as two black men and one white man in Chicago, each shaped by ministry, medicine, and academic research. They challenge the church to become a leading force for racial justice. So whether you listening are a person of faith or simply someone who cares about justice and healing, this conversation is for you, and we're super excited to dive into this with you guys. Guys, thanks for jumping on the program and joining us for a little bit here.
Yeah, delight.
Absolutely. So I guess what we can do here is I'll go ahead and get us started. And what I think we can do, if there's one, we probably want to get insight from all of you guys. And so, but that may not work for every question. So we'll kind of take it as it goes. I'm going to throw out the question. If we have a specific question, I'll address you guys specifically if it's for you. But otherwise, we'll just jump into this. So this is a book about kingdom racial change, which is obviously very intriguing, something super needed right now in our country and our culture. Sure. But I would love to hear from you guys, and maybe we can start with Dr. or David. Can I call you David? Can I call you all guys by your first name?
Yeah.
Is that all right? And so, David, maybe we could start with you and then just go around. But how did this book come about? How did you three authors actually come together to end up writing a book about kingdom racial change?
Well, Pastor Michael Evans and I were friends since grammar school. We went to the same church, and we learned a lot of skills of working with people. Work with the youth, work with in the neighborhood. We'll go out and canvass in the neighborhood about Christ. Anyway, I went to school and I returned home, and we originally had a men's group, and we wanted to develop it further, so we did. And we were basically a group of 3 to 4 black churches, and we peaked to about 100 men at the Crosstown Classic games. And we're going again this in about 10 days. But anyway, so we eventually invited some white church to our group. And then from there, God started moving with our group. I was and my wife were watching Jamar Tisby's documentary. And when he was discussing going over his documentary, he mentioned Emerson's name, Michael Emerson's name, frequently. So I said, who is this guy? He must be someone important in this racial reconciliation space. So I emailed him, and he answered. About 99.9% of the people you email on that level never answer. But Michael did answer, and then we got together. He joined us as a speaker of one of our Zoom sessions that we had during COVID. And he joined us on a few more sessions. So we began to develop a friendship. Then later, our group met another sociologist who wanted to do research with us. And I decided that I should do this. I should talk to Mike about it. And so I called him, and then go ahead from there, Mike.
Yeah, well, it just so happened that the publishing house Erdman's had written and said, we're really looking to find more diverse authors. Would you have any idea? And so we said, oh, well, the three of us could write a book because we have been experiencing things together. And so that's how the book came to be.
Pastor Evans, did you want to add?
I was totally against it all.
Why am I even here?
But before, in the 80s, and it didn't work. So I said, why try it again? Doing the racial reconciliation thing was not kind of working. But I decided I would give in, and I listened to the Lord to what I was saying, give it a shot, give it a chance. And so even though I was not for it at the beginning, the Lord started dealing with my heart. Okay. I conceived it. And God has done something special ever since. And so I joined in with the brothers. But like Dave said, we were friends for a long time. So I trusted his opinions and what he was doing. And so I eventually talked to him and said, let's give it a try.
Got it. Well, I'm really, really glad you all did. But the is the thing I think we're all here to talk about. So what is the kingdom racial change? David, I'll let you start. What is this book all about, and what is it trying to accomplish?
Well, as you know, what does it mean, king? I believe it means love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, all thy soul, and love the neighbor. And if we look at America today, it does not represent the kingdom of God. In that, we don't see these attributes in Christians. And the other issue is that in every major group, there seems to be a white leadership. I'm not putting down white people, but you don't see minorities taking a stand or taking leadership roles in multiracial groups. So change the kingdom in this world, and racial, have it more diverse, like with our group that we have now. We have Hispanics, white, and Black and Asian. And me and Michael are the co-founders and are the leaders. So we want the kingdom of heaven to be brought to earth the way it should be. Because when you go to heaven, you're not going to see segregation, white group there, Hispanic group, and Black group there. You're not going to also see predominantly white people in control. So that's my take on it, the kingdom racial change.
Mike, can I get your thoughts? But I'd love also for you to maybe just talk about why is that? like why is it we live in a society where we've only had one Black president who was a man. Why is it that our jails, are predominantly of one particular ethnicity, and why does Sunday morning at 9:00 seem like the most racist time in the week? So I'd love for you to maybe just kind of just help us contextualize what David just said.
Yeah, it's hard because there's two Michaels. Which one do you mean? Sorry.
Michael Emerson. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question, and it's a huge question, and I'll try to boil it down into just a short answer. But look, at the founding of our country, the idea of race was being woven into many things across the world. But partly what made the United States unique, among other things, was that race had come to be an understanding as a category of people and a way to create hierarchy. And so it got woven into our very laws, into our very Constitution, right? Who was a citizen at first? You had to be white and so on. So that had not been before, because the concept of race, the Bible doesn't speak a lot about race. It speaks about ethnicity. It speaks about national groups. But race was created around 1500. And then it got woven into much of what the United States is. And then, of course, because we had slavery, because of the encounter with Native Americans, it became very clear to the founders who were of the country, who were white, they wanted it to stay that way. And so, interestingly, and I'll say this very briefly, what did it mean to be a responsible American or citizen? That was a really worrisome thing for our founders, because we weren't going to have a king. The people were going to be king. And yeah, that democratic idea was awesome, but it was also very scary because no one had tried it before. So they were worried, what if the people aren't responsible? So they came up with their definition, and their definition is you're not African Americans or Native Americans. And by that they meant you're not ruled by your passions. We are, as white people, ruled by our minds. So we are rational. We make solid decisions. So we started building racial inequality into everything we did from the very beginning. And that has continued, right? It's obviously. So I'll stop there. I mean, we can go into more detail if you'd like.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about race on this, on our program. We've had people that have talked a lot about the whiteness of the church, the whiteness of the American church, the whiteness of the Western church, and the idea that race was, basically the created category used to subjugate people that were non-white. And history is what it is. It's tragic. It's terrible. And we're still facing the ramifications today that we can see, growing up. And I was born in 1985, so I know I'm a youngin' for some of you guys. Even though I have gray hair. Look, I almost have as much gray hair in my beard as you, Pastor Evans. What's going on with this, brother? I don't get it. But it must be the stress, dude. But one thing that I was super interested in when I was looking through the book and trying to take in its thesis and its arguments is the building blocks of racial change that you outline throughout the chapters, and then you bring and you put it in one nice list at the end, which is great. It'll be a great sermon series. It'll be a great teaching series for someone to use, honestly. And the first one, though, is so important. I think it is one that people really have trouble with. The idea that racial power is systemic, that this racial injustice and the power, what gives it its power is that it's systemic and it's on all these levels. And you outline the micro, the meso, and the macro. And I guess my question, because I grew up right, 1985, I was in the 90s, and you kind of got told, hey, that we're a post-race society, essentially. We don't have racism like we did. It's not there, and certainly not systemic racism. So a racist was someone who is KKK, a racist was someone who is a Nazi, right? A neo-Nazi, something like that. Someone who is very clear, they're showing it, and it's like this extreme version that you put up there, and they're like, that's racism, which it clearly is, but that's racism, that's the only issue. And then we have kind of a new resurrection of, maybe that's not the right word, but right, it comes back, this idea that, hey, no, the systemic part of racism is there and it's always been there. Now, people of color have always known that, but it's a lot of white people that have never thought about that. We've resisted that. I heard it just all the time. Look, racism's gone. There are racists, but racism in the law, racism in our in our systems, it's gone. But you're saying it's not. So I would love to hear the case from you guys, which I agree with, but I would love to hear the case from you guys. Make the case that racism is systemic. For those listening, or they're listening, they want someone else to hear, how is it that it's systemic still today in 2025? And whoever wants to answer it, at whatever length you guys want to, go ahead.
I'm going to start because I want these two fellas to go into more detail. But the reason that we write the book and structure it as we do, which is the first half is just telling our stories growing up. We're all about the same age. We all spent much of our time growing up in Chicago. Michael Evans and I in Detroit for a few years at the same time. So it's a great comparison of what our lives are like. Me living always on the white side of town, they living always on the black side of town. And doesn't that tell you already there's systemic something going on, that there are black sides of town and white sides of town? And you can go to any city in this country in 2025, and you can probably do it in 2050, and that's what you're going to find. So why is that? The beauty of us just telling our stories is you get to see how our lives are so fundamentally different because of something we have no control over. We're just born. We're just trying to grow up like everybody, but we have very different realities. I'll let the other guys speak a bit to it.
Well, it reminds me of a story. I was walking down the street one day with a couple other pastors. We were downtown. We had a meeting downtown. We passed a clothing store. In the clothing store, there were mannequins, and the mannequins were hooded, but they had these nice suits on, but they were hooded. And one of the pastors was a female. And she said, "Do y'all notice that?" We didn't really notice what she was talking about. She said, "Look at the mannequins. They're hooded." And so we went to the store. We asked to speak to the manager. We addressed the situation. Your mannequins have hoods on them. They have nice suits around the hoods. What is that? They said, it's just a mannequin. It means nothing. They had no idea you were just nice clothes on the Ku Klux Klan. And they just looked at it like it was nothing. But they didn't address it. But the fact they didn't understand what they were doing made me see how it's woven into the fabric, and folk don't even know. You are insulting a whole race of people, but you have nice suits on a hooded mannequins. And you don't realize you're insulting a whole race of people. And stuff like that is a concern to me. But I recognize also that it takes time for people to understand what's going on. And so we realize it's been a long time since this has gone on. And so we know nothing is going to happen very fast. It's going to take a while. But at least we take a small bite out of something that needs to be done. And so as we work together, like I said, at first, it was just a group of black churches getting together. It was 5 different black churches. But when Doc said, let's involve a white church, I said, this can't work out. I know, I've seen in the past, people try it, but we can't seem to come together. When we first got together, 2018, it was all about just coming to a baseball game. Even though it was primarily black churches at that time, the feeling was so different from any other time we had gotten together that we said we got to continue this somehow. We have to continue this. The warmth and the relationships that were built have continued 2018. And so we know that it can be done. It's going to take time, but it can be done.
David?
Yesterday,
did you want to answer, Josh?
go ahead, Jack. Did you want to say something, Jack?
No. I was asking you, David, if you wanted to answer Josh's question about systemic racism.
Just real quickly, yesterday I went to the bank where I live. I live in a predominantly white area now. I went to the bank to withdraw money to put down on the cross-town classic. So I went to get a certified check for a certain amount of money. And the teller just stood there, on the computer for a prolonged period. I said, oh, man, what's going on here? Then she went back to get a signature from her supervisor. But they were back there for about 15 minutes. And I said, what in the world is going on? And so she finally approached me and said, this is a large amount of money. Are you sure you want to do this? Is this something that you want to do? So just that experience is what we go through almost daily. Common that we have to deal with. But
yeah, it's I told somebody recently how every single time you log into something, it always asks if you're human, and you're like, of course I'm human. And it just seems like such a ridiculous thing. Now imagine if that happened to you in real life. But the only people that got that message were people that look like me. I was like, it's enough of a jab in the side that you're just like, oh, like, of course I'm a real person.
Yeah, Will, when I started to realize how race was impacting, because I had the blinders on, that I was asked, like, what's the number one thing you have come to realize? And that was it. That for most people of color, you spend most of your time just trying to prove you're human, that you belong, that you somehow are just as good as other people, as white people, right? That's just a weird, very sad, unfortunate place to have to be. Very wrong.
Yeah, and what kind of brought it more to home, and I'm not trying to make this all about me, but I think that this story kind of applies in this scenario where recently Trump pointed out or commented a president of a country about his ability to speak English well.
right.
And the leader like comes from an English speaking country. So like it seemed just kind of really off place. So I posted that video, and the reaction to the video was a little bit was different from people of color versus, folks that have never, had their humanity questioned, because a friend of mine had said something about the comment, and I had said, oh yeah, like this is the equivalent of being told you're pretty smart for a black person, or you speak well for a black person, which you two black people are laughing because I'm sure somebody has told this. And my friend was like, somebody really said that to you? And I'm like, yeah, like on more than one occasion. and I think that just goes to show that racism isn't over, and it's still prevalent. And I love to know, especially from you, Pastor Michael, like how do you pastor a congregation, and how do you have messages about racial reconciliation? Which Greg Boyd has a really great quote in his book where I'm probably paraphrasing, but racial reconciliation is spiritual warfare in real life. And
That's a good statement.
like
Yeah.
how do you like pastor a congregation and help them walk through, this tension that lies between the church's role in racism and preaching the gospel, especially when we're living in a culture where even touching on the topic will get you, under the watchful ire of this administration.
Well, I will first deal with something we've kind of talked about already, not to belabor it, but my wife and I were living in an apartment. We're empty nesters, so we were living in an apartment. And I was taking the dog out for a walk, but somebody put on our door that the apartment is being sold. I'm like, the apartment is being sold? We live here. It turned out that for some reason the bank had foreclosed on that apartment, and the people that owned the apartment did not own it anymore. So they was getting rid of all the tenants. So we all had to leave. And with that, we had 90 days to vacate. So we began looking for a house or another apartment. And we were told by the bank that because my wife did not have enough time at the job she was at, that it's going to be very difficult. But one particular bank said, oh, well, I think we can work it out. So we started working with this bank, got right up to the 90 days, and then they said, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. Just like that. They don't know we got to go. We have to go. It didn't work out. They were happy with it didn't work out. And we sorry. And they said, if you can't get a loan from us, you won't get it from nobody. Understand, we are your last opportunity. Come back in 2 years. Come back in 2 years. We got to go. And so we talked around with some people in the church that we were participating in. And there was a real estate person who said, I know a guy that you can talk to. It turned out he happened to be a black banker. He said, well, let's see, what did you do? I told him I was a pastor and what my situation was. And I worked as an organizer for 18 years before that. And so they said, well, how about your wife? I told him what she did. And he said, well, what did she do before that? I said, she homeschooled our children for 13 years, right from grammar school to college. Out of the 4 children, 2 have gotten their masters, and all of them have graduated from college. He said, well, that's work. He said, that's work. Even though it's not, she wasn't getting paid, that's work. That's 13 straight years of work. And I can put that down as work and get past that 2-year requirement thing. He said, it happens all the time, but it just doesn't happen for us. He was a black guy. He said, it just doesn't happen for us. We're living in the house right now after the bank told us not only can we help, but nobody else can help you either. Come back in 2 years. Well, we live in the house right now because a person saw it's a loophole you can get past. And so he put my wife there for 13 years in a row of work as a teacher. And a good teacher.
Heck yeah.
And that was allowed for us to help us get past it. We've been in the house for 3 years now. It's a small house, but it's like I said, we empty nesters. We need a lot of space. We just need a place to live. We had to go. And they were going to hold us back. But the Lord allowed us to meet somebody who understood the situation and just say, it can work for you if we just let it. It worked for us. And now to get back to the thing with the churches, you know, it's very difficult situation to talk about because a lot of black congregations as well as white congregations, they don't like to talk about race because it's it hits a nerve because we got to deal with stuff we got to deal with. And deal with it in a way that somehow we can't keep saying the same things and expect different results. Now, yes. I have a white minister who's a good friend of mine. His name is Tim Noberg. And back when I was working in a white organization as a youth person, because at that time he had MDiv and I did not, they wanted to put him above me. They wanted him to be the boss because he doesn't have what you had. So they want him to come in and be the boss. But he would not. He decided, I will not try to usurp Michael, who's taught me all I know in this job. I would leave before I try to take over his position. I believe that is the key. But with brother understanding, I cannot use what they think I have or who I am to be over someone else. I will come in, I'll be a part of and help the program do what it has to do without having to be over. I don't have to be the person in charge. Like I'm the only one that can make it work. Other people can make it work. And I think that is a key, is getting other people to, getting our white brothers and sisters to understand somebody else can do the work as good and even sometimes better than you can. That's difficult. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is.
Start swallowing that pill, the country will change little by little.
It is. It is. And it's such an important thing to wrestle with and to work through, because it's like it is hard to talk about race. And,
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it makes sense to me why it's hard to talk about
No, of course
race.
not.
I mean, you mentioned it. It's the real life. There's so much animosity in the past that's happened. I think white people don't know really what to do a lot of times, in the sense of, man, I'll just speak for myself, just thinking, my grandparents were racist, certainly by today's standards. My family can't stand when I say that, but I have reasons to say that. And then, that certainly great grandparents. I mean, my heritage was from Alabama and from Kansas, bleeding Kansas. So, I mean, it's like all of, my heritage, my grandparents had no idea how to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about it. They weren't going to talk about it, quite frankly. And that's kind of what I grew up with, people saying, basically, hey, you got to protect your own. You can't let, just understand that. I mean, I had family members say to me, not my immediate family, but say to me, you got to understand, like, they're going to remember what we did to them. And if we give power, then they're going to pay us back for it. Essentially, this fear. And it's like this whiteness and this fear that's connected to the whiteness. And like, hey, well, we can trust ourselves to try to make things better, but we can't actually place power in the hands of someone else, which is what you were mentioning. We struggle to place power in the hands of someone else. And what I love about the model that you're talking about is it's hitting all three levels. And the unique thing that I saw in the book was the meso level, right? I've heard of the macro level, that systemically on a societal basis and laws and stuff like that. But this meso level of this middle level of organizations, how does an organization look at what it's doing and identify racism or identify prejudice? And then how do they take care of that and work through that, especially because you have to talk about something that's very, very difficult. So it's kind of like, how do we talk about it? I know there's two questions, but really it's like, how do we figure this out on that meso level? Because so many of us, we know we vote, but we're like the macro level, I don't know. The micro level in my family, we'll have to wrestle through that too. But that meso level of like, hey, we can actually do something about this in our churches, in our organizations, in our businesses.
Oh, yeah.
But we struggle to. So how do we do it? Why do we struggle to do it, do you think, and how do we do it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So just so people I want to make sure they're clear. When you say macro, we're talking about, the big federal level, the big national level, laws, policies, things that are lawmakers are doing every day. And, we get Supreme Court rulings. That's all at the macro level. And most of us feel completely powerless on that. Then we have the micro level where we live most of our lives. And that is our families, our friends, our relationships, ourselves. But then the magic level, really, as you're correctly identifying, is this meso level. Because at the organization, these are the organizations, our churches. Boy, back in the day, I guess it would have been our bowling leagues, but it isn't anymore, right? The companies we work for, these are all at the meso level. It's where it organizes all of us and where we develop those relationships that often mean a lot to us at the micro level. And it's where we can make the greatest change, because we do have influence in our churches. We do have influence in our companies that we work with, or maybe we own a company. So sometimes people get overwhelmed by that. How could we ever make a change? If we change this massive level of the middle level, our organizations, we've gone 80% of the way to changing our nation. So you can focus on your church. You get to focus on where you are. You don't have to go somewhere else. I think that would be the main point.
Did you want to add anything to that, David?
As far as our organization, as Michael has said, we were initially about 100% Black, and I wanted to stay that way. But if you want to change, God knew. I didn't know too much about racial reconciliation or any of this stuff. But as I was going home from rounding from hospital, God spoke to me and said to invite 20 white men to our group. I didn't know what God was doing. But what God said was really trying to say, I'm going to shake this up. That's what he was saying. I didn't know. I thought we were one and done. And as I said, when they came to the ball game, the 20 white brothers, the predominantly white men at the game, it went to another level. And the reason why it went to another level is because unity, as the Bible says, it flowed down Aaron's beard, and he commands a blessing. I didn't understand that. But when you get white and Black men coming together, there is a blessing, a power that I just did not experience before. And I said in my heart, I said, I got to have this. I got to have this type of blessing, this power, this enthusiasm that I have never experienced. So we began to develop these pastor exchanges. Black men, pastor, our pastor, went to a white church trying to break down the wall, shake it up. White church pastor came to our church, Hispanic church. So it is not easy. And some men have left. We've been out in existence for about 7 years. But there are some faithful brothers. There will be 192 men at the White Sox Park, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Diverse men trying to shake it up, trying to understand how we can make this a better church. And I think that's through unity. And there's a risk in being unified. There's a risk. You take risks. And that's what we're learning. So just to make that first step, crossing the train tracks, taking the risk, understanding that there's another power, there's another anointing when you cross the train tracks.
Wow. Absolutely. David, when you said you didn't want to do it, why didn't you want to do it? Why didn't you want to expand out? What was the fear? Was it similar to what Michael said? It's just not going to do anything. What was it?
Well, I agree with Mike Evans. He really understands this more than I do. But, when you develop a group or organization, I went to med school, residency, fellowship. There are certain people that like to rise and take over. And I have nothing. I don't consider myself a strong leader or anything. I never looked at myself as a leader. But one thing I did not want someone entering the group and taking over and leading us in a way that they thought was godly, when God has given us the vision. Is to take, I hate to say, the take over type of spirit that some of the white brothers have. And it's not that I want to be on top, but I want us to go in a direction that God has called us to go. And a lot of times when you join the white brothers, I mean, I don't know. What do you say about that, Dr. Emerson? What type of...
We love coming in and taking things over. Go ahead.
Well, let me just mention real quick that a couple of Saturdays ago, our unity joined in with a community group on the far south side, not of Chicago, but right outside Chicago, in Markham, Illinois. And we did a picnic for the community. And a lot of those white brothers drove all the way from the Willow Creek area, got there an hour and a half early, helped set up, walked the neighborhood, put up signs, talked to people in the neighborhood, and we had an incredible time and just enjoying each other's, the fellowship with each other, setting up games and doing things, setting up stuff for the kids, for the adults, and putting teams together and doing activities together. And it was whites and blacks and Hispanics and Asians together. And like I said, I had never seen the work ethic that I saw with them brothers working together. I mean, we had to set up several tents, put things together for the community. And the community enjoyed seeing it too, because the community is predominantly black. It does have a Hispanic area, but it's predominantly black and Hispanic. So when they saw all those white brothers coming in and working and serving, looking and serving, it did something for them. It did something for me. So it's working together, understanding that I don't have to be over it. I don't have to be the main person. I mean, these guys were just rolling up their sleeves and working hard. And we had an incredible time. This is a couple of Saturdays ago.
It's not good to be all black, nor is it good to be all white or all Asian. That's what I'm in. But when we come together, there should be some diversity in leadership. That's that's important.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the PRRI, Public Religion Research Institute, I think I got that right. They put out some surveys a couple years ago, and they were looking at basically like feelings of persecution, like who feels persecuted, and they broke it down by a whole bunch of different factors. And anyways, white evangelicals kind of stood out as being the one group that feels the most persecuted. And there was there's an analysis I read for it. I can't remember who said it, so I don't really want to just throw out names. But in their analysis of the data, they said, why do white evangelicals feel like they're most persecuted group in America? And their conclusion was because they're being told they are being persecuted, and I think what you all are doing is sort of helping counter that narrative where you're presenting kind of this love that through Jesus and what he did for us, and you're bringing it to a group of people who may also believe in Jesus, but they're seeing a side of Jesus in a different color. And also that's countering a narrative that they've probably learned in church, sadly, So I would love for each of you, this is my last question for each of you, is to tell us, like, what does that work look like 10, 15 years from now? The book is successful, New York Times bestseller, but like that doesn't really matter, right? Like the success of the book is secondary to the work and the ministry that birthed the book. All right. So what does 10 or 15 years look like in each of your communities with the work you're doing? And Michael, Michael Evans, you can start first.
Okay. Well, I believe that 10 or 15 years would be incredible, but I believe it will probably take more time than that. And that what we're focusing on what we can do in smaller groups and smaller areas and do it well. And I think in time, we'll start seeing small changes become large changes and become as a part of the country or the community as the things they were before. We start seeing things like schools having better books in the minority communities, Like one of the things we used to do is have the police come into a neighborhood or area and do the morning roll calls in that area, just so they can get to know the community like they used to walk. But that rarely happens now. But we wanted the police to come into areas and do their roll calls and give assignments right then and let the people see how police actually have to get together every morning and do this. They said do it on purpose so everyone can see it. Just take small steps to get to the point where we are doing this stuff regularly and seeing it regularly happen. So 10 to 15 years could be pretty good, a good litmus test to see how this works.
David?
It would be nice to see Black girls, white girls, as King said, holding hands and going to church and worshiping Jesus together. And their parents, Black and white, Hispanic, and the pastor is Asian or Black. That will be a win for me.
And Emerson.
A year ago, I published a book with Dr. Glenn Bracey called The Religion of Whiteness. And we talk about it in this book, that one of the fundamental barriers to bringing us together in our churches is this competing religion we call the religion of whiteness, which you find in so many white evangelical churches, but you can find it elsewhere too. And in 10 and 15 years, if we can see progress of rooting out that false religion so that we can focus on true Christianity, that automatically is going to start bringing us together. That thing called the religion of whiteness, this pretender, this intruder, is what's keeping us separate.
Sorry
about that.
Josh and I were trying to figure out, like, is it your turn, my turn, your turn?
No, it's mine. I was trying to get over and I hit the unmute button and then it took me to another screen. And I don't understand why that happens sometimes.
Because you're not human.
But, yes, exactly, dude. This conversation is so good, guys, because I mean, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about uncomfortable things. We have to find a way to understand each other and actually be able to see reality as it is, not as we want it to be, not as we wish it was, or not even as we think it is, but really how it really is. And that requires people from different parts of life to come and to help us and to instruct us and to help to, make sure that we have different experiences that we can bounce our own experiences off of so that we can, have something that's challenging our own view of reality. And we go around just thinking, hey, everything is fine, until something in our face shows us, hey, it isn't what we thought it was. So when I can hear about Michael, Pastor Evans, in his experience, or David in his experience, on going to a bank or trying to get a loan and going through all this rigmarole, just to be able to get what is just a normal thing that people just should be able to get, or at least in my experience, right? When I hear about that, it stops me for a second and makes me think, oh man, wow, reality, maybe it isn't how I think it is, or at least for everyone else. And we need that to challenge us because we get so complacent. And something like racism, something like racial change, it requires such intentionality that there's an awkwardness to it that you have to push through. And the intentionality is what's so difficult, because most of us, if we're uncomfortable with it, we're going to avoid it, and we're going to ignore it, and we're going to go somewhere else. or if we want to choose to hang out with a group of people that look like us, have our skin color, have our same values, whatever it is, have our same experience growing up, that's so much more easy and comfortable. And yet that doesn't take us anywhere in actual change. Change is difficult. Change is really hard. And that's what I love about this conversation. And it can be really disheartening. I'm sure that I know that you guys experience the same things. It can be really disheartening because you're trying to do it and you're misunderstood. I would be called a woke pastor who even knows? Just whatever label, whatever category is just going to be thrown on that's essentially meaningless except for, this vague, ambiguous sense, bad, woke, bad. And it's just like
funny that what they're really saying is you should stay sleeping.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly, dude. It's like, hey, don't wake up to all this stuff. Don't do that. You're going to make too many people uncomfortable and it doesn't pay the bills. So don't do it. And I have had many pastors tell me, look, I would love to make some of these changes. The people that want this don't pay the bills and they won't give. So if you really want racial change, give, right? Support, do the things that bring that, because all of us hit up against these incentives, right? This reality and the incentives that if we do start talking about something like you mentioned, Greg Boyd, what was it? Will he lost like 1,500 people from his congregation or something like that? 1,500 people leave. That cost is so high. It has to be such a deep conviction.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you guys, and I would love to just give you just like a chance to, say your your last word for this conversation and what you feel is what you want to leave us with and leave our audience with. And then I'll close us out. So we can start with you, David, and then go to Michael Emerson, and then Pastor Michael Evans.
Well, I would like to say that I love all you guys on this call. I love to tell our audience that I love white people. I want to get to know you more. I hope you want to get to know me, and that don't be fearful of change. Don't be fearful of Black people, Black leadership. We're one in Christ, and that's what's important, and that's what's so powerful.
Yeah, and I would say, and we talk about this all the time, it can seem so big, but we truly believe it is doable. Like if there is a God in heaven, which we all believe, God is going to orchestrate this so that maybe all you can do is you're trying to support your pastor for some racial change in your church, or you're trying to do some tutoring at the local school. That isn't going to change the nation, but we have to believe that God is orchestrating thousands of different groups and people so that collectively it will make that change. That's why we believe it is doable and it will happen.
Yes. I think what people forget, we've said it before, but I think what people forget is that when Jesus went to different areas, the scripture says he was moved with compassion. He felt what the people were feeling, but it drove him to do something. He had to do something. I think if we sit back and decide we don't have to do anything, that's what hurts us.
Yes.
But when we really love and have compassion, it would make us do something. And what we do, like Dr. Emerson said, doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world. Just something. And help move things along. Put your arm around somebody. Do some mentoring. Work with your local churches. If you see a problem, address the problem. Say, hey, we should be doing this, or we will at least be helping doing that. And as we do that, little by little, things will change.
I really love that. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the program with us today.
Thank you.
Spending some time, giving us your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And to, absolutely. And to our viewers and our audience, guys, thanks for joining us again. And make sure you're liking and subscribing, doing the things that hack the algorithm, doing the things that get other people to see it, because we want this to be in front of more people. And right now, at this time in our country, this is as important as it's ever been. We really are at a precipice, I think, and we really need unity more than anything. Forget this divisive garbage that you see all the time. It doesn't have to be that way. We can make a way forward. Guys, share this with people. We're going to put links to the Kingdom Racial Change in the show notes. Make sure you pick up the book. Make sure you support and check out our friends there and what they're doing. We'll put links to all their stuff. And until next time, guys, keep your conversations not right or left, but up. God bless.
Bless you.
Hey there, Josh Burtram here, faithful host of the Faithful Politics Podcast. I want to let you know about a compelling new spinoff, the Faith Roundtable, where I'll be interviewing top faith leaders, theologians, and scholars to unpack the pressing issues that are shaping the church in America today. We'll dive into topics like faith in public life, social justice, and how we can engage our communities more effectively. Make sure you don't miss any of our enlightening conversations by subscribing to it on our YouTube channel. Join me at the Faith Roundtable, where deep discussion meets thoughtful insight.